Well, everyone, Game of Thrones is coming back very soon, and I am so excited, just like the rest of you, and I want to talk about my favorite character. I think I'm the only one out there who actually likes Littlefinger. Am I the only one? I don't know, maybe I am. But let's talk about how I think Littlefinger could win the Game of Thrones, even though, yeah, it's probably going to be Jon and Daenerys, we all know, but I would like to see Littlefinger do it, and I believe he has the means at his disposal to do so. So last time we saw Littlefinger at the end of Season 6, spoiler alert obviously, he was stuck in a really rough situation. He's just declared for House Stark, leaving House Lannister.
I've declared for House Stark for all to hear.
So he's burned the bridge with the Lannisters. Any hope of him going back and rejoining with them, it's not going to happen now, especially with Cersei on the throne. She's not going to forgive that he sided with the Starks now. However, his alliance with the Starks is on shaky foundations at best. Neither Jon nor Sansa trusts him, even though he has saved both of their lives.
And you trust him?
Only a fool would trust Littlefinger.
So if his alliance with them doesn't work, what's he going to do? Is he going to join with Daenerys Targaryen when she comes across the ocean? Well, Varys and Tyrion are in her inner circle. Are they going to trust him? Hell no. Varys is like his nemesis. He would never want Littlefinger to have anything to do with Daenerys' plans. So no matter what direction he moves, nobody trusts him. It seems like he's checkmated. He's got nowhere to go. Especially when the truth about him betraying Ned Stark eventually comes out, which it inevitably will. When Arya finds out, she's probably going to put him on the kill list. He's in a lot of trouble. So the odds of seeing him die some point in this series seem quite high, but it only seems that way. Remember, in his final scene with Sansa, he revealed what he really wants, to sit on the Iron Throne and to have her by his side. Let's talk about how he could get those things. First of all, he controls the Vale, the Eyrie, and Harrenhal. Remember, he got the Eyrie after he married Lysa and then threw her through the moon door. Although that's only a temporary rulership of that area, because the real Lord of the Vale is Robin, so when he grows up he'll take over. But Joffrey gave him Harrenhal after he helped them secure power. Now if you look at a map of Westeros, he controls the entire inlet, which means if you were looking to land an invasion force in Westeros, this is the best possible place you could land it. And between here and King's Landing, the only thing in your way is Harrenhal, which Littlefinger also owns. And we know Daenerys is on her way with an army. She's going to have to land that army somewhere. She's going to want to land it in friendly territory. And Littlefinger is the one person that can guarantee her safe landing and clear the path before her so she can walk right up to King's Landing and knock on the door. Also within the city, there's the Gold Cloaks who control all of the royalty, and he's the one who pays them. As he said before, they're loyal to the one who pays them. So the Lannisters, they're done. They're already a sinking ship. So as much as Varys and Tyrion might hate and distrust Littlefinger, he's pretty much the only person that can hand Daenerys King's Landing on a silver platter. And remember, he has made this offer once before.
When you march on King's Landing, you may find yourself facing a protracted siege, or open gates.
So whether you trust Littlefinger or not, how could you reject that offer? This puts him in a very unique position to bargain with Daenerys in order to get his way into her court. And more importantly, get Sansa as well. Remember, she's still technically married to Tyrion, so if in part of his negotiations for his help, he includes that he has to divorce her so that she can be given in marriage by Daenerys, would Sansa really reject an offer of marriage if Daenerys Targaryen is arranging it? Would she really want to risk war with the Targaryens just for that? Probably not. She'd just suffer through it. If she could suffer through the Boltons, she could suffer through Littlefinger. So he could get half of what he wants by getting Sansa through exploiting his position with Daenerys. But how could he ever sit on the Iron Throne if Daenerys is already there? Maybe even flirting with the idea of marrying Jon Snow or Jon Targaryen. Well, in a way, it kind of doesn't matter if she takes the throne or not. Doesn't mean she's going to keep it. Remember, Littlefinger is in temporary control of the Eyrie, which is the most impenetrable stronghold in all of Westeros. It's virtually impossible for any army to take it. That's the reason why Lysa could openly defy the Lannisters, and yet they never tried to take her out. Because if she's in there, they know they can't get her. You just can't send an army there. It's just impossible.
Is this the only way into the Eyrie?
The mountains are impassable. If you want to get to the Eyrie, you need to go through the Bloody Gate. Doesn't matter how large your army is. If you attack this gate, you do it on this road, 3 men abreast, and get slaughtered like goats. First Lords of the Vale didn't have much, but they had these mountains, and they knew how to use them. And the fortress they built here has never been overcome, not once in 1,000 years.
In fact, the only way you can get in there uninvited is if you're flying a dragon. That's the only way. And a similar thing can be said for Harrenhal. The only way it was taken before was because it was destroyed by dragonfire. No land army could have taken that so easily.
Harren the Black thought this castle would be his legacy. Greatest fortress ever built. Tallest towers, the strongest walls. Harrenhal was built to withstand an attack from the land. 1,000,000 men could have marched on these walls and 1,000,000 men would have been repelled.
So this means that if the wall ever was to come down, which I think it's inevitable at some point it will, these two strongholds will be the only two places left on the map that cannot be overrun by White Walkers. So Daenerys can have the throne, doesn't mean she's going to survive when the White Walkers attack. Let her and Jon form an alliance and go off and fight the White Walkers. Littlefinger can just sit in his stronghold and wait for it all to be over. And then he can pick the bones clear of whatever is left of the Dany and Jon alliance. Remember what Varys said.
But he would see this country burn if he could be king of the ashes.
So if anyone would be crazy enough to bring down the wall, it would be Littlefinger. He would do it because he knows he'd be safe in the Eyrie. And there is a horn called the Horn of Winter, which is said to be able to bring down the wall. Sam Wise found it with all the dragon glass when he was north of the wall, and he still has it. And it's actually on the front cover of one of the upcoming books. So I think at some point someone's going to blow that horn and bring down the wall, and I hope it's Littlefinger. So he basically has the best way of flipping over the table if it's not going the way he wants. If he finds himself cornered with nobody trusting him whatsoever, he can just go back to the Eyrie and blow that horn and wait until the White Walkers wipe everyone out. I'm certain that Littlefinger knows a hell of a lot more than he ever shows on the surface. With all his spies, there's no way he doesn't know that Daenerys is on the way, and now that he's with Jon Snow, he knows all about the White Walker threat, so there's no way he couldn't have included those factors in his upcoming plans. And I think looking at the way he's positioned himself, he can help with the Daenerys invasion, and through his strongholds, he's safe if the White Walkers attack. So despite the fact of everyone being against him, he's really the most likely to survive the events to come. As we all know, Littlefinger thrives on chaos, and there's going to be some very chaotic times ahead, and no one will rise higher during that than Littlefinger. And you know what? It might sound kind of insane, but I actually think Littlefinger as king would probably be the best result for all of Westeros. I mean, sure, he did say that when he's king, he'll kill absolutely everyone that's ever crossed him before.
When you imagine yourself up there, how do you look? Does the crown fit? Do all the lords and ladies simper and bow, the ones who sneered at you for years?
It's hard for them to simper and bow without heads.
A man with great ambition and no morals, I wouldn't bet against you.
But you know what? In Game of Thrones, that's probably a good policy. And it's kind of necessary in Game of Thrones. But I think he'd be a good king because when you look at his backstory and like his whole sort of obsession with Cat, he was the most insignificant member of the most insignificant house. So when he was sort of infatuated with Cat, she's kind of like a symbol of the status that he wants to have but he couldn't get.
Lord Tully's son, Edmure, was quick to ensure I would never forget myself in their house. He nicknamed me Littlefinger, after my size and homeland, and the name was just cruel enough to stick. When Lord Tully announced Cat's betrothal to a brute from the north whom she'd never met, I realized her duty would outweigh any feelings she had for me. Fool that I was, I challenged this Brandon Stark to a duel for her hand. He was a warrior, I was a boy. If Cat had not intervened, he would have killed me and laughed over my corpse. For my insolence, Lord Tully banished me from River Run. No matter. I had learned everything I needed by then. I would fight my battles not with swords, but with wits. A few men could match me.
So he sort of spent his whole life finding other ways around that. And he really has a disdain for people who earn their status simply from being born into the right family, or being born with like physical strength. And Westeros under him would be a Westeros where he would change the system so that anyone, no matter what station of life they're in, could climb the ladder to success. It'd kind of be a bit more like the situation that we now have in modern Western society. Westeros under Littlefinger would actually be more equal. It'd be more just and more fair for common people and poor people. Because he's been bullied, he's been stepped on, he's been held down his entire life. He would change the game if he became king. So let me know what you think, and if you want me to do any more of these videos about how other characters could win the Game of Thrones, like maybe Tyrion or whatever, let me know in the comment section. I'll be happy to do it. Okay, catch you later.